Hey everybody, what's up? My name is Kai. I'm the Nerd of Strength, and this is the Nerd of Strength podcast. Still a working title right now, but I have a special guest today. This is Will, and he has a YouTube page called Will Development. And from there, I will let him introduce himself.
Yes, hello everybody. I am absolutely elated to be here. I am Will from Will Development. It is a YouTube channel slash company, if you want to call it that, that I started maybe, actually, it's been a while now. It's probably been about 6 years I've actually had that working name. I am a stonemaker here in Florida. That's my main claim to fame here in Florida, other than my YouTube channel, and I am also a novice going into open class strongman competitor here in the state of Florida. I think that's all there is about me right now.
Yes. So before we actually started recording, tell us about how you make stones for pros and also local strongmen.
Right, yeah, I was mentioning we were talking about some of the pros and how probably 99% of the pro strongman athletes, they're absolute sweethearts. And Anthony Furman, who is now gone on to crazy good fame. I mean, he did that thing with The Rock.
Yeah.
That show they had, the Titan Games. That's what it's called. He's won the world championship at 231, and now he's hanging out with Brian Shaw and training with him. But I actually knew him back when he was here in Florida. He lived near Tampa area, and I actually made stones for him. And then there was another strongman competitor. He's not as well known, and it's honestly it probably is just because he's in a lighter weight class. He's a 175 competitor, Richie Stout, former world champion, and I've made stones for him too. And just today, I had a pickup from a Masters competitor, Chris, absolute sweetheart, nicest guy, and that's what I love the most about making them. Actually, is getting to meet all the new competitors, old competitors, you name it, and then just really meeting the whole community.
Yeah, that sounds super awesome. So what got you into making Atlas stones?
Honestly, it was I don't know if you ever heard of him, Elliot Hulse.
No. Oh, yes, I have. Yeah, he did training back in the day on YouTube.
Yes, he started a gym called Strength Camp, and he is actually based here in St. Petersburg, which is near Tampa. And probably around 2012, I started discovering his videos, and I saw him lifting this Atlas stone. I didn't even know what the thing was called. I knew nothing about strongman. I had seen maybe one or two videos of worlds once or twice, that kind of
Hmm.
thing, and thought it was cool, but I didn't know any more about it. And I saw Elliot lifting these gigantic stones, and I just thought it was the coolest thing on earth. I got to get in on that. Nobody was selling them in Florida, and I said, well, if nobody's selling them, how do I make it? And down the rabbit hole, here we are 7 years later, and I'm the best one in Florida.
That's awesome. And I see you wearing a Slater's Hardware t-shirt, and we talked a bit about that when we were down in Florida.
Yes,
So did you
yes.
get the molds from him?
Yes, Steve Slater, I mean, he's an OG in the strength game. People don't give him enough credit. I feel like he's one of the background dudes. It's kind of what I want to be later on, like where people don't really talk about me, but everybody knows.
Yeah.
And he does most of the natural logs that you see, they're his. Stones, he made them. He makes the molds and sells them. And when I have the whole set. I actually just found out he came with a 24-inch stone mold,
Hmm.
which is like a 580-pound stone. So I got to get one of those.
It's like the
But
one Brian Shaw lifted up for the world record, I think. Yeah.
exactly. So I have 8 all the way to 22 in 2-inch increments, which at the time was the full set. And when I ordered the 22-inch, was the only one I was missing. He sent me this shirt with a handwritten note, and I thought it was the coolest thing. And then I got to meet him, and he was just the nicest guy.
That is super awesome. Yes, Slater definitely makes a lot of like really nice strongman equipment. Like the branding on the log is just amazing. If I had the money, had a home gym, I would definitely like get Slater's stuff because it's definitely the quality is there.
And I think training with a natural log too is better training because I think a lot of strongmen are sort of, as the sport evolves, it seems that things are getting more standardized with
Hmm.
guys like Mike Bartos stepping in and sort of essentially outfitting entire competitions with just his
Yeah.
equipment. And the equipment's good. I'm not going to say it's not good, but strongman to me is being strong no matter what. You know what I mean? Where
Hmm.
it's like it doesn't matter if it's a little unbalanced to one side or It's not perfectly round. It's like, no,
Yeah.
you're strong, you pick the thing up and you do it. And I think a natural log is a great expression of that, because no matter what you do, the damn thing's never going to be balanced.
Yep. Oh yeah, you're definitely right about that. Like at my gym we have like, we have the Titan logs and we have a metal log. He does, my gym owner does have a wood log. I never done it. I went to a contest and they had like, all the equipment. You say it's standardized, but like some of it doesn't weigh the same, even though they say it does. And they had a
Mm.
natural log, and that thing humbled me so quickly. Like I tried and I took it to the face, and it's like, yes, it's a whole different beast.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, like you said, Steve, I feel that Mr. Slater, I think he does the absolute best equipment out there in terms of sort of keeping the humbleness of the beginnings of the sport. If
Mhm.
Bartos is the evolution, the stone of steel and the loadable plate loadable dumbbells, if that's
Yeah.
the next step, I think Steve is the traditionalist in keeping with like natural logs, natural stones. I think he's the best at that.
Yes, and he works with Rogue, or
Yeah.
is he close in Florida, or is he in Ohio, if you know?
He lives in Ohio. Yeah, I talked to him
Okay.
about that. He was actually kind of jealous. He said he wished he could have stayed a little longer, get some fishing in while he was down here. And yeah, he's out of Columbus or somewhere near Columbus. He has a whole little store up there. I'd say little, it's a gigantic hardware store out there, but it's
Yeah.
just to him, it's just another part of his store. He loves the sport, but it's just like he just started it because somebody asked him to do it. Basically.
Yeah. Yeah, I know like in certain countries they have different ones. Like Australia has like Standard Submit who makes their stuff. We got
Mhm.
the Bartos. We have Mouser who does like the power blocks.
Yeah,
But you're
Mouse.
right. He's definitely like the godfather of like here's what Strongman. Strongman looks cool.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, well, just go ask anybody on the street if they know what strongman is. I think I was talking to Chris about that this morning. I said I think we forget because we're so involved in it. There's really only like 20 of us. You know what I mean? Like, there's not a
Yeah.
lot of us out there. And if you just walk out and you say, "Hey, you ever heard of strongman?" The first thing they're ever going to mention is, "Oh, do you mean the big guys that lift the stones?" That's all they know.
Yep.
So it's like that's kind of part of the reason why I continued to make them even after I went almost a year without anybody needing any. I said,
Mhm.
you know what, I'm just going to stick to my guns, keep doing it. And it's like, because this is what people recognize. They know this. And I like that. I think that's how it should be. I think traditionally you had the manhood stones. It was, the same story. You pick this up, you're a man. You don't, you're not.
Yeah.
I like that kind of stuff. I think that's cool.
So one other question, do you like make them to order, or do you just have, just keep making them and hope people sell them, or I'm sure you use them, of course, or you have your own set?
Yeah, we have I have tons I've made for the gym. I say tons, probably like 8 or 9 that I made for the gym, or in the process of making them, I learned a lot. I have 4 stones in my backyard right now that I've kept over the course of the 6 years or so I've been doing it that are just god awful. I have a big dinosaur egg one. I have one that just looks like gravelly, and then I have the first one I ever made. And I'm
Nice.
not giving any of those up because part of it is keeping it to remind me, like, remember how this one got screwed up? Don't do that again. And then the other
Nice.
part of it is to show how much better I've gotten at it to myself. Like, this was try one, this is try 75, but I definitely don't keep inventory because number one, it would be impossible to know what people want. There's standard sizes, standard weights. I mean, like an 18-inch weighs 225 to 229 pounds, depending on myriad of factors. But let's just call it 225, right? The odds of everybody wanting that exact size with that exact weight, super low. A lot of times I get people wanting a 260 or a 285 or a 300.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ways you could do that, which, I mean, if you want to go to stone making, we can talk about that a little bit. I don't know how deep dived you want me to go.
I think it's interesting. Somebody
Well,
also might find it interesting, so we could, yeah.
sure, okay, I'll try to keep it brief as I can, but basically, you got 2 ways you could make a stone heavier. We'll put
Hmm.
that in quotes, right? You can take a big stone and make it weigh less. So take a 20-inch that normally weighs 315 and make it weigh 260. Or
Hmm.
you can take a smaller stone and make it weigh more. This sounds duh, but you got 2 different ways to do that.
Yeah.
You could take lead and put it in the smaller stone to make it weigh more, I don't recommend that method.
Yeah, I'm about to say, have you done it? I've seen people talk about the lead shots, and everybody
Yes.
seems to hate it for the most part.
Yeah, I have. So I have done that before. I did it for somebody out of strength camp, actually, not Elliot, but actually for the gym. Um, and I don't recommend that method. And the only reason is because, and I try to talk people that want them out of it, because lead costs $2 a pound.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to add 50 pounds to a stone, you're adding an extra $100 of cost to it.
Yep.
And I always tell people, I'm like, look, if there was any other way I could do it, I would do it that way. You can't use steel because steel rusts.
Yeah.
And in case you didn't know, concrete's mixed with water, so that's usually not a great idea. It's going to cause stress fractures. It can break. So I always recommend let's go bigger and let's make it lighter. And then there's two methods to do that. The most common method is basically taking a ball of foam and you drill a hole and you tie it to the bottom and then you just pour around it. And basically the foam is occupying space inside the stone, making it lighter.
I actually never thought of that.
Well, Steve Slater's pretty famous for that. Do you follow Alan Thrall at all?
Yes, I do.
Untitled
Yeah.
Chapter?
He
If
was
you
like the
saw in his
first person I
stories,
watched.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you saw in his stories, he just put up, um, he just made a 440 stone that weighed 400, and he did it with that method by tying a ball to it. I sent him a message actually. I don't want to be that guy who's like, hey, there's a better way to do this, bro. The internet
Uh-huh.
guy telling you how to do stuff. So I always approach from a place of humbleness as best I can. Like, hey, I have you ever tried using Maximizer?
Yeah.
He never actually responded to my message, but that's fine. I mean, he's a busy guy. It doesn't bother me any. But Brian Alsrew, have you ever heard of him? Brian Alsrew?
Yeah, untamed, not untamed strength, but yeah, him
Never
too.
seen. Yeah,
Hmm.
absolute sweetheart. I hit him up years ago because he was doing the same thing. He was trying to make a 380 stone weigh 400, and I did all this math for him and said, hey, this is how much lead you would actually need to make this happen.
Yeah, because he was the first person I saw use lead shot, and I was just
Yeah.
like, "Ooh, I wouldn't want to mess with that."
It's challenging to work with and it's super expensive and it sucks because if you screw it up, you got to either bust up the stone or you're stuck with a stone that just doesn't weigh what you wanted.
Yep.
And people talk about lead like it's junk metal, and to be honest, it kind of is, but it's still expensive, you
Yeah.
know. So the way I lighten a stone is by using a mixture of it's a brand name by Sacred called Maximizer, and basically what it is it covers 60 to 70% more area per weight.
Okay.
So the idea is that why you would use it in industry is, let's say you're pouring a second story in a house, rather than having that second story weigh, let's just say 5,000 pounds, it's going to weigh 70% of that. So it'll weigh 3,000, or
Yeah.
so on and so forth. The way we can use that in stones, though, is by mixing it with a normal mixture of concrete, which is usually 5,000 psi. That's the lowest I recommend people go. Mixing that together with the maximizer will then allow you to manipulate the weight of the stone to basically whatever you want. I mean, if you just poured, say, a 315-pound stone, which is a 20-inch stone, with just maximizer, it would actually come out weighing about 160 pounds.
Oh wow, that's. And how did you like even figure that out? Because like that's a lot of math. I've never been good at math. I'm like, geez, I would just like, all right, pour it until it's I'm supposed to and be
Yeah.
done with it.
So I actually got the idea off of it was back when I was kind of coming up with new ideas for new videos, and I sort of put that in the background because I'm busier and I've never promoted my channel at all. It's always just been kind of if people come along, they come along and they stay. I'm more of a quality over quantity guy anyway. If
Yeah.
I get 1,000 people subscribe and none of them really care, that means nothing to me. But long
Yeah, I
story
feel the same
short,
way.
yeah, I mean, long story short, I was trolling some message boards on, I think, Starting Strength back when I think he still has the blog up, but back when he had a blog.
Mhm.
And I was just like looking at people talking about making Atlas stones. And somebody had asked the question, like, hey, how do I lighten a stone? And somebody said the foam ball method, which I was aware of. But I don't like that for a few reasons. One, it puts a void inside of your ball. Now, you can make the argument that it's compressing around the ball, so it's not actually a void, and I'm like, fine, but you do have to damage your mold to do that. These molds can be
Yeah.
expensive. The 20-inch one is about $150.
Yeah, that rogue pricing.
I don't want to drill a hole in something that's $150 and now it has a hole in it forever. That sucks, in my opinion.
Yeah,
But, so I'm just scrolling, and there's just this innocuous comment from some Masters competitor who's just like, use Maximizer, and I'm like, what the hell is Maximizer? And everyone else said, what the hell is Maximizer? And he described it the same way I did. Basically, it takes up more space per weight. And
yeah,
I said, wow, that's interesting. He gave no math. He just said, oh, well, if you want to lighten the stone by 40 pounds, you just put, you know, the weight you were planning on doing with regular concrete and then the other 40 pounds in it with the other one. And I was like, well, that doesn't really make sense because it still weighs something.
yeah.
And so
Figure it out.
I deep dove and started doing experiments and just spent literally years figuring out the exact ratios, how much this takes up, how much weight this is, and actually did come up with numbers. And then I'm terrible at math too.
Mhm.
I had a notebook about that thick, just filled with pages and pages of me writing out the math to figure out the certain weight per size of stone and the correct ratios. And I put it in one of my videos. I said, look, I am too stupid to figure out the formula for this, but if somebody out there wants to, please do it.
Yeah.
And one of my coworkers actually did. And he helped me make a spreadsheet where basically I've gotten to the point now where I just enter the weight, enter the size. It tells me how much water I need, how much maximizer, how much 5,000 psi concrete I need. Does all the math for me. But I feel like I earned that since I spent literally years just going, oh, and just figuring it out. But I've done a lot of work.
That's super cool that you did that because like I said, I would never think of that, or going on message boards. I know today with the millennials nobody talks to anybody, but yeah, I would
Right.
be that person who would troll the message board like, how do I do this, how do I figure this out? So at least the guy said, hey, use this thing.
Yeah, and
That
when it was
that's
just
that's a
that,
jumping point.
it was a totally innocuous comment because nobody else, because they were even just like, what are you talking about? And he just said, you just mix this much in and this much in. And I kept reading, and everybody was like, cool, thanks, bro. And I was like, what else, though? That can't just be
I
it.
need more. I need answers.
Yeah, and so I ended up making the answers myself. And my coworker, who's way smarter than I'll ever be, dude, he's that annoying type of smart, you know what I mean? Where it's
Yeah.
like, he was telling me, I remember one of our first conversations, he was telling me about a book he was reading on physics. And he said that, and I was like, this is fun for you. And he said, I didn't understand the math in it, so I bought a math textbook to learn the math to read the book.
Oh boy.
And I was like, man, if I'm reading a book and I come across a word I don't know, I try to find it on tape. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm just not that smart, but I know things, so people think I'm smart.
Right, I tell my mom always says, "You have a bunch of useless knowledge about things nobody cares about." I'm like, "You're right, I do."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I own it exactly, right? Like, I know that maximizer is 0.069 pounds per square inch or cubic inch. Nobody cares, but I know it.
Yeah, exactly. You ever use the hybrid molds? Because I've seen those too, where they have like the opening on the top.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and for the most part, all the molds are made the same. There's even some no-name brands out there you can buy off like eBay and stuff like that. I don't know the exact process. I also work in plastics, so I know a
Okay.
bit about plastics, but I'm not sure the exact process Slater or any of these people use to make their molds. Generally speaking, I would assume it's sort of a thermo mold where basically they have a big sheet and they heat it from the bottom and it just melts down into a mold.
Yeah.
That's how I would think they would do it, but God knows they might use blow molding. But Steve Slater cuts the same exact size hole on all of his molds, roughly a 3.5 inch opening. Hybrid molds have almost like a 4.5 inch opening, which sounds like a great idea, but you end up with this really big flat spot on the bottom.
Yeah.
And if I can be candid, I think the hybrid molds are just cheap junk that nobody should buy ever. Um, because with Slater molds, it's a perfect sphere. You can tape around it, and you can make the mold really tight and closed, and you have a good seal. With the hybrid molds, you can't do that because they have lips on the side that you're supposed to
Like
zip tie
hit with
together.
a chisel No, that's the Slater ones where you hit it with the chisel, right? And
Yeah,
the
to knock it
hybrids have
off.
the zip toes. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've seen videos where like they end up leaking out of the side because
it's
zip ties aren't, guaranteed to be
right.
as tight as you think they are.
Right, and that lip is going to break eventually. You're going to have a lot of problems with those. And though Steve Slater recommends using Gorilla Tape and putting essentially just 4 or 6 pieces of tape over his molds to keep them closed, I recommend to people buy the cheapest tape you can buy from Harbor Freight or wherever, cheapest duct tape you can buy, and just cover the entire mold in duct tape because
Hmm.
then you know that the compression outward is being evenly distributed. You know that mold is never going to pop open unless you tell it to pop open by cutting it. And it protects the outside of your mold from concrete spills and things like that. I've learned a lot over the years, and
Yeah.
that's what I recommend. But the hybrid molds, if you're going to try to go the cheaper route by going the hybrid molds, which is the only reason I can imagine somebody would go that route, just go to eBay and get the no-name brands from them. They work. They work. They'll get you a stone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hybrid molds, I just don't. I don't think they're that great. Plus, I mean, Steve Slater's the best.
Yeah, I was looking at like the hybrid mode ones when Rogue did like their Black Friday sale. All that stuff, in my opinion, is still overpriced, but there's people who buy it, so maybe I'm just a cheap asshole. But
Yeah.
I was like, well, why is there a difference between these? I knew of Slater's name. I
Yeah.
had only just recently heard of like the hybrid ones, but I did see the videos where like, oh, they're leaking or oh, they're zip ties, and I was like, I'm not gonna. I've also heard of people using plaster of Paris back in the day to make like stones. I'm like, why would you do that? I do use plaster of Paris for cosplays, so I'm
Yeah.
like, ooh. Imagine
I
dropping that. I imagine it just explodes if you drop it, right?
so my first ever stone that I made, I didn't have the money to buy a mold from Steve. And my first mold I bought from him was actually a 16-inch. And this thing people don't know about Slater either. If you got to look a little, it's a little hard to find, but he sells discounted stone molds on his website. So,
Okay.
and it's usually about 40% off. And all it is like the cut is uneven where they cut the circle, or the
Yeah.
lip, the mouth is just a little goofy. But I bought a 16-inch, and the first stone I ever made, though, I made using plaster of Paris. You're not actually pouring the plaster of Paris. What you do is you take um, a big medicine, not medicine ball, like the Bosu balls,
Yeah.
the big exercise ball. You put
Hmm.
that down. You lay down a bunch of plaster of Paris on the ground, obviously wet. You stick the ball on it and you cover it with the plaster, leaving a small hole at the top. You deflate the ball, you take it out, and then you pour the concrete in that.
Yeah, I've heard of that. And so what happened to you? Do you still have it, or did it break when you used it,
Oh, you
or?
have to destroy the plaster to get the ball out.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
but the
actually have a
concrete
video.
stayed.
How's that?
The concrete stayed.
I have the original
Oh, that's the one.
ball,
Okay.
and it looks like somebody who doesn't know how to A, work with concrete, B, work with plaster, or C, knows what an Atlas stone should look like. It's
Hey,
this
first
weird
try for everybody.
it's this weird layered effect to it. It wasn't vibrated down at all. I mean, now, I actually, because of this, I've gotten very interested in masonry work. I actually built a patio on my back of my house myself with concrete. It helped from some friends too, but it didn't come out quite how I needed it to look. But it's like I did this by myself. I
Hmm.
did a fire pit in the back that's embedded in the patio because of this work I've done with concrete. And now I know too much about concrete. I'm thinking about starting some sort of laying business or something. I don't know. I've got all the tools for it now too.
There you go.
Yeah.
Even weird niche sports like this can like evolve into like, hey, I make a career out of making stones or something like that. So that's cool.
I would kill to make a career out of making stones, but unfortunately it's one of those purchases, and they're not. I don't sell them for a lot either. It's not like I had one guy, a new guy, who's a friend of a friend. I've never advertised people. It's just word of mouth. And a friend of a friend, he was just like, "Hey, how much?" And I told him how much, and he was just like, "Oh," he's like, I'm used to paying $1 a pound for everything, because that's what
Hmm.
metal goes for." And I'm like, "Oh God, no, dude! Like, I couldn't justify it. How could I justify it? Like, my time is worth something, but I get paid for my time. Don't worry." But
Yeah.
like, concrete is $7 a bag. Like, for 80 pounds, I can get $7 for 80
Yep.
pounds. Like, how could I justify charging you $1 a pound just because I've added water to it? You know, I mean, yes, there's my time and my experience and all that, but I make enough. If I got a stone every day, I would make enough to live. But
Yeah.
people don't buy them that often. It's usually like they buy 3 at a time, and then it's like, all right, we're good. And, you know, I mean, how many times do you have to outfit a thing?
That's true. Or you don't want to buy this like too much and like you just never be able to lift it. That would kind of suck too. It's
That's
like,
it.
hey, I brought this 580 and I'll never be able to lift it.
And that's, yeah. Luckily, I haven't run into too many silly people that have done that mistake. I usually talk people out of things if I think it's really dumb or they're, excuse me, truly wasting their money. Um, I've had like a 175 competitor. I can't remember his name now. And he was a Highlands game competitor.
Mm-hmm.
And he wanted a stone that was close to the, I don't remember if they call those the Maglashan stones, but they're very similar to them.
Yeah.
They're granite. And he wanted a size that was similar to that and all that. And I said, well, look, here's my thing. Why don't I make a stone that weighs the same weight, but that's bigger? Because then when you go to the smaller stone, your technique is going to change a little on the smaller stone.
Yeah.
But you're going to be so much better at it because you're used to the same weight, but a larger grip. And that's what I try to convince people of. And he just wasn't having it. I mean, he just was adamant about paying the extra money for the metal embedded. He's one of the few guys, there's like 3 or 4 people that I've made stones for that I just never talked to again because they just didn't ever hit me up again.
Yeah.
I'm very open and honest. Like, if you have a problem, let me make it right, please. Whether it's money back or a new stone, you tell me, let's make it right. But I don't even know how he did because the last message I ever sent him, this was like 6 years ago now or 4 years ago now, and the last message I ever sent him was like, hey, let me know how you do at the comp, and
Yeah.
I never heard. So
some people are stuck in their ways, It's just
that's
like,
just how
don't
it
tell me what
is.
to do.
That's just how it is. I mean, I aims to please, and that's what made him happy. So there you go.
Did you ever ship them or you just do local pickup? I don't even think you could ship. I don't even know why I asked that. Like, could you even ship an Atlas Stone?
You could. It would just be not economically feasible.
You probably have to put on a pallet or something.
Yes. So where I work for like money, we're a ship. We have it's industrial, so we ship things all the time, and I'm actually in charge of a lot of the shipping and receiving. So I know a bit about it, and I did a quote one time, just like how much would it cost for me to ship 3 stones, which let's just say it's a 200, 250, and a 300. That amounts to around 700, 800 pounds, right? For me to ship it from Florida all the way to the furthest part of the U.S., which was like Oregon or something, right? It's like the furthest distance I could possibly make it. And essentially it amounts to flat rates 9 times out of 10.
Yep.
And it was like $400 or $500 to ship it, and that was shipping to a residential. If you had it shipped to a business address, it was a little bit cheaper, but it was like $500. And I'm like, well, my God, the stones don't even cost that much.
Right, you might as well just make one and buy it. Buy the mold and do it yourself for all of that.
Yeah, that's what I tell people. I have a couple videos on my channel on stone making. I've had this. If it would ever stop raining every single day here in Florida, I would sit down and finally make my stone masterclass, which I've been planning on doing for like a year. Last year got too busy. This year I'm like, I have plenty of time, but it just keeps raining every day, and I'm like, I don't want to get caught out in the rain when I'm trying to explain something. But it's not that hard.
Mm-hmm.
It seems hard, and it is hard work, but it's really not. I mean, I've mixed by hand probably 150 stones. And yeah, it sucks, but there's nothing to it. I have a concrete mixer now, but I feel like I've earned that.
Yeah.
Like just going through mixing them all by hand. But it's like I know all the tips and tricks to teach people now. But it's not that hard. I mean, if you just watch Alan Thrall's video on how to do it, he goes over a lot of good information there. Is it a masterclass? No. Is it perfectly acceptable? Hell yeah, it'll make you a stone that's good. Elliot even has a video up there where he shows him making stones. I would probably go with Alan's video over his. But there's plenty of information out there. Just buy the mold, rent the mold, or if you're really feeling frisky, try the plaster of Paris method. It does work, but you got to know what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Definitely, doing all that, it is easy. I live in New York, which unfortunately means I'm in the concrete jungle. So a lot of people, I do have a backyard. Well, my mom has a backyard, and I go to her place. I'm like, hey, can I use your backyard? But a lot of people in the city just don't even have that luxury, to
Yeah,
even be like, oh, I can't even build or make things, or I don't have a garage unless I live in like
yeah,
Long Island or Staten Island. And here in New York, we only have one strongman gym in the city itself, which is luckily only 5 blocks away from my house. But yeah, a lot of the places are like out. You got to travel by car or take mass
right.
transit to. So it I don't know. Like, cause I thought about it. Like, I was like, "Hey, mom, you're not really using your backyard. Can I get strongman stuff in?" And she's like, "Don't ruin my backyard." So I thought about, making the molds and stuff. She's like, "What are you doing with concrete?" I'm like, "It's nothing too crazy." I thought about it, but
Yeah,
it didn't work out this summer. But I definitely want to by like next summer. Probably get
yeah,
my own like stone to work with that because I suck at Atlas stones. I
yeah,
really
yeah.
do suck.
Practice definitely makes perfect. Pro tip: if you're inexperienced with any kind of masonry work, especially concrete work, get the smaller bags. Just
Yeah.
like don't buy the 80-pound bags. Just get the 50-pound bag. Don't be a hero, because you'll find that moving 50-pound bags. Because let's just say you do an 18-inch stone, a 225 stone, right? Let's
Yeah.
just say you buy the 18-inch mold. You can get a lot done with that, by the way. Which, if I were to recommend you personally getting a stone, I would say get the 18-inch mold. It's
Okay.
probably the biggest stone you're going to encounter in competition.
Yeah.
Um, and you can lighten it very easily. And a 225 is probably not the heaviest you'll ever see, but you can always make it heavier too. It's not that complicated. But just get the 50-pound bags, because if you're doing a 225, that's 3 80-pound bags. Mixing that in a wheelbarrow, or God forbid, all you have is that little basin that they sell at every hardware
Yeah.
store. Like,
The bucket, the crappy little buckets.
yeah, you're gonna want to only do. It's better to do 3 mixes with the 50-pound bags than to only do 2 mixes with the 80-pound bags, because I learned that a long time ago. I was like, I had a big dick energy moment, and I was like, let me just do 160 pounds at once, and it took me like 40 minutes just to mix it all to the proper consistency, because it was just so heavy, and
Yeah.
I'm human. You know what I mean? So having done that kind of stuff, and over the years, I was like, I'm just doing 80 pounds at a time, and I just slowly pour it cup by cup, and that's all there is to it. But pro tip to other people: just do 100 pounds at a time. 250-pound bags at once, nothing wrong with that. It's not a race.
It'll get done.
Exactly. You're just trying to do the best you can. Yeah, it's definitely one of those things. Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of really good information on the Atlas stones. And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Hopefully, when I get to mine, I will take this advice because I don't want to screw it up, or like I said, the 80-pound bags. Because I would be the person to be like, I'm just gonna get this giant bag. Fuck it.
Yeah, I'm a big strong woman. I'll do the big one.
My
Yeah,
mom would do this. Honestly, my mom is like 63. She would do the same. She's like, get the 80-pound bag. We'll do it ourselves.
yeah, yeah. And trust Rich, that you're not winning any prizes
You're
for
not.
having the biggest dick here. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just get the job done. People appreciate the beautiful stone when it's over. You know what I mean?
exactly.
Yeah, they don't give a shit if you carried 880-pound bags. Like, they don't give a shit. They just care the stone looks nice.
Exactly. And like I said, you were experienced in stones, and
Yes.
earlier you said that you were a novice competitor. So why don't you tell me more about that? Well, you're novice going into open weight.
Yes, so I've done one, two. I've done technically two competitions, but only one being a strongman competition. I've been involved in the sport. I've gone to Florida's Strongest Man basically every year since I discovered it, which is like going on 4 or 5 years now. I've
Cool.
gone to several down in Miami that I've been a fan of. The first competition I did was the Strength Camp Challenge, which Elliot Hulse had hosted. And if it weren't for that, I actually wouldn't have gotten into strongman at all, because I met a guy there, Nate Pastrana, one of my best friends now. He's a really good 231 competitor, but he has yet to break into that pro status. You know what I mean? He's one of those guys,
Mm-hmm.
just kind of always a bridesmaid. there. Really strong dude, really smart with the sport, and he's nutty, so I love him, you know. And met Nate there, but that specific competition, I was in the men's, I think the open class they had there. They didn't have weight classes at that one, so little 175-pound me, who was useless, by the way, was competing against guys that weighed like 300 pounds.
Yeah.
And this was more of like an athletic competition. They had elements of strongman there. Like they had a keg run and like a farmer's handle thing, but then they also had like a bench press for reps. You know what I
It was
mean?
like a powerlifting strongman hybrid.
Yeah, well, and then they had a mystery event, which was a jump. You were jumping over a bar.
Okay, that's
That was their mystery
interesting.
event. And I was like, well, I mean, I saw a great movie once that told me white men can't jump, and half of me can't jump. So,
I'm imagining seeing 300-pound guys trying to jump over a bar, and it's like, ooh, that can't end well.
well, that was about the only place in the comp where I actually felt good because I got one of the lowest jump scores. It was like 20 something inch. I don't know how to jump. What the hell, you know?
Yeah.
And there was a guy there, a local guy. I think his name's Steve Weech, something Weech. He ended up, if it was a real like legitimate combine there, he broke the combine record for 225 bench pressing. Like he did it for like 47 or 48 reps.
Jeez.
The combine record at the time was like 40. But granted, again, 300-pound dude.
Okay.
He also deadlifted 800 pounds, which was the highest of the day. But it made me feel good when I beat him on the jump. I was like, oh, well, thank God. There's something I'm not getting last place at.
Yeah.
Because he got like 12 inches and he was like, that's it. And I was like, sweet, I'll beat him at least. But it was a pretty pathetic showing. Honestly, at the time, my deadlift was a pathetic showing. If you go to the strength camp YouTube, they had like a highlights video. And in one of the highlights videos is little fresh-faced 175-pound me trying to deadlift 315 or 320. And I just look like complete hell. It's just, I am forever immortalized as that. I mean,
Oh boy.
It makes me feel good to know that even now with a busted hip and back, I can still pull that weight much better looking than I did back then. So I did that comp and I met Nate, and Nate convinced me that strongman was the way to go. And I said, is there jumping? And he said no. And I said, you might have something going with this. And I grew up on essentially a farm out in the country. My father was a mechanic and a handyman, so I grew up doing all that kind of stuff, mechanics works, carpentry.
Yeah.
Ironically, not a lot of masonry, which is what I do a lot of now in my spare time. But it was, moving wheelbarrows of stuff and, just honestly strongman stuff, pick up this piece of an engine and carry it 15 feet over here, That's how I grew up doing it. And when I started looking more into strongman, I was like, oh, well, shit, I could do that. I used to do that growing up. And for the most part, my better events are usually the strongman events, like moving weird shit around.
Yeah. Versus
the static lifts, which is where I usually end up getting, not so great, where it's like, you want me to deadlift how much? Ooh, I don't know about that, boss, But I did Miami's Baddest, and I did it in the novice class. And a bit of a sour note on that one, sour grapes. I was actually somewhere around 6th going into the last event. And I knew I wasn't going to win it because if people don't know about novice strongman, if you don't have to do it, and I could talk about why you have to do it versus why you wouldn't, don't. Because 9 times out of 10, there's trophy hunters there, which are just dudes that just go around the circuit in the novice class, just collecting their trophies because they can. They weigh, 280, 300 pounds. They have no business in that class, but they go in it because they like to feel good about winning.
Yep, we have the same thing with the strongman. And I saw that in my 3rd competition. I'm like, well, why are you here if you can... People's like, oh, I got 2nd or I got 3rd or I'm just doing it for the trophies. And like, I'm just trying to learn this stuff because I don't have this equipment. If you've been doing this for 2 years trying to get trophies, go play with the big girls and go actually prove yourself. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I mean at that comp, it was Miami's Baddest Man, put on by Mike Della Pava of the Battle Axe Gym, the Strongman Gym in Miami. Give a shout out to my boy. I love Mike. Mike's a great guy. He does so much for the sport too, especially not just locally, internationally. He had Ed Cohen at his gym.
Nice.
Like, how cool is that, right? And at that comp, again, I was like sixth or seventh going into the last event. There was a dude there, so I didn't even get one on the log. The log was a 200 log, and I'm a great, okay, not great. I'm a good bench presser. Like, I picked it up very easily. I basically, with 2 months of work, went from like 225 for one to like 290 in
Hmm.
like 2 months. I guess I'm built for it. I just like it. I overhead, different story. I've been working on overhead for years, and it won't come. But never cleaned a 200-pound log. The most I'd done in training was 180. Cleaned the 200, and I kind of was like surprised. I was like, oh shit, I actually cleaned it. Oh my god, and it felt kind of easy. And I went for the press. Got here, got here, got here. Tried 3 times, couldn't do it. There was a dude going at the same time as me in the novice class. 2 people down. That son of a bitch did 28 reps.
Oh, just repping it out.
Just, yeah, it wasn't even no leg drive, just all strict, just like it wasn't even there. And I was like, why are you here, bro?
Yeah.
We had a axle tire deadlift, which, it's like a 16-inch pull or something like that. 450 pounds. I think I did 3 reps, and I was like, I'm calling it because, I'm not going to kill myself for nothing. And that dude did like 20, or I think he did 14 reps with that. And I was like, you shouldn't be here. Of course, he won. He needed to be in the super heavyweights is where he needed to be. But,
Hmm.
he wanted his trophy. Well, and according to him, it was his first comp. And I was like, that's adorable, but you
Test
shouldn't be here.
yourself.
You shouldn't be here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I went there, and last event was he called it a burden run. You had to pick up a sandbag, carry it 60 feet one way, and then 60 feet back and put it over a yoke. And I was moving way slower than I'd ever moved in, and I made a lot of mistakes that day. Let's just put it that way. And you got points just for getting to the yoke. That gave you 1 point, and then once you got it over the yoke, time stopped and you went by time. So I got 1 point because of that, but because I screwed that event up so much, I went from sixth all the way down to like 15th.
Oof.
Yeah, it's a bit bittersweet, but I learned a lot from it, and it's novice. Who cares, right?
And that's the part about novice. It's a learning experience for maybe events you've never done before, or see where you need improvements compared to other people.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. And now I've got my first comp with open class. I'm doing the 200s. It's just a level 1 comp. I have some hip and back things going on, so I didn't want to go too heavy right out of the gate. But I do have a kind of a hunger to actually compete. I'm not one of those dudes. It's kind of, I'm a little terse with it when people talk to me about competing because for me it's just shit or get off the pot.
Yeah.
Whenever I see a competition and I say I'm going to do it, once they open registry, I'm the first guy to sign up. Period. No questions asked. And I don't do that because I want clout for it. I do that because the second you sign up, it's real. And if you don't sign up immediately and you're not already a competitor, your bitch ass is never going to sign up. It's that simple.
I agree with that. Like
Because
that.
yeah, I had
Sorry.
one guy, I had 2 guys at our gym, and one of them, they're both really nice guys, and I had one open registry happened. I told him about it. I said, you can do novice, no problem. He's a 175-pound guy, pretty strong. He's, some of the weights at the comp, he's going to be chasing him, just like me. I'm chasing some of the weights at this comp too, but
Hmm.
he's got good tenacity, good energy, good positive attitude, all that good stuff, and he's doing novice. I was like, you belong in novice, 100%. And right when registry opened, I signed up, and I told him about it 2 weeks later. He signed up the next day when I told him about it. And I was like, good. There was another guy who said, oh, I'll probably do it. And I was like, oh, cool story, bro. A week later, I saw him again. He only trains I only see him on Saturdays when I
Yeah.
train there. And I saw him a week later, and I said, hey, you signed up for that comp yet? It's the first thing I say to him. Oh, I'm waiting for the pay and blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay. So next week, right? Yeah, I'll do it next week. Okay. Saw him the very next weekend. I said, hey, did you sign up yet? oh no, man, I got this, that, and the other. And I said, well, I'll pay for you to, I'll pay for your entry.
Yeah.
Oh, no, 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 nothing wrong with that. For me, it was just admit you don't want to do it because you're either scared or just don't want to. But
Yeah.
don't step to me and say I want to compete and then come up with reasons not to. Like, no,
Yeah, it's true.
you're being a bitch. Just be real. I respect real. Don't lie to me. Don't bullshit.
Right? There's nothing wrong with not doing a competition if you don't want to, you know?
Right. This isn't for you. That's fine. But
Yeah.
don't act like you want to do it. But there's just so many things that I can't do it right. Like, no, no, you don't want to, because give me the real reason. You're either scared you're going to lose and look stupid out there,
Mhm.
which I got news for you. Everybody looks stupid out there every once in a while.
Yeah.
There's pros that have been crushed by Atlas stones before. You know what I mean? They
Yeah.
look stupid. So what? Real strong men and real women, obviously strong women too, they only care about work.
Mhm. And
And
most people
that's
there aren't, going to be a dick to you. I was afraid of my first competition signing up. I actually signed up on the last day of registration. Well, not last day because you can sign up the day of, but I signed up maybe 5 days before the competition. And I
mm,
just come back from like just an injury where I was lifting furniture and like I dropped the furniture on myself like an idiot. And
yeah,
I was like, I just want to do this. I hadn't been in the gym for months. I'm just like, I just want to do this because I want to do this. So
yeah,
I signed up for it. I was like, I'm gonna come in last. I'm gonna look stupid, but it didn't matter because most people there were nice people, or they were helpful. And it's like, hey, giving advice, like, hey, don't round your back or
mm,
lift the implement this way. Most people aren't there to be dicks,
yeah,
and the ones that are, fuck them, ignore them.
yeah. I mean, I was just talking. Like I said, I was talking to Chris about that just this morning because he was here and we always shoot the shit for an hour whenever I meet somebody or see him again. And he said, in this entire, he's 49 this year, I think, or 50, and he's still doing it, by the way, which is just like I told him, you're stupid, but so am I, and that's why we get along. And we were talking about it, and he said, in this entire time I've been doing this, he's been doing it 15, 20 years almost. He said, in the entire time, he's only met two people that he just couldn't stand. And he named one of them, and I forgot to get the name of the other one. Local guys, and he's like, other than that, he's like, they're all good people. He's like, we disagree on certain things, but at the end of the day, we're all here to do the same stuff, just try to get stronger, be better, and we all get along. And I was like,
Exactly.
that's what it is. It's a community, and that's what I want it to be more popular, but I also have my opinions on ways it should go. But like assholes, everybody's got one, and they all stink. So
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I want it to be bigger, but then it'll be like bodybuilding when you got the gym bros who's like, yeah, but Eddie could deadlift this. I'm like, that's not what we're talking about.
right,
You with your fans, you'll get the assholes, unfortunately, but it comes
right.
with the
Well,
territory.
I told a couple people about my actual like dream of strongman. I don't plan on being, say, world champ in the 200s. I definitely want to take the lighter weight classes and make them more popular.
Mm.
And I feel like I've got a loud mouth and a decent personality people seem to like. So I feel like I could be that guy to sort of like, hey, by the way, we're down here. Like,
Yeah.
we weigh less, but we're just as fun. And I want to win Florida's by the time I'm 28, which means I've got about 2 years, give or take,
Okay.
to do that. I want that title. I want to be Florida's strongest man at the 200s. And then I want to have a lot of notoriety around the state because I have a big problem with the way nationals is run and the way, no, just specifically nationals.
So
In
you're United States Strongman, or are you
Right,
Strongman Corp?
I'm strongman corp right now,
Okay.
but they both influence the other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm pretty okay with how Worlds is run, but like nationals, you hear the stories where people are paying thousands of dollars to go out to wherever it's at, which this year it's actually in Florida, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. Florida's so hot right now.
So hot right now, in literally every way imaginable. By the way, um, but yeah, I have a problem with the way nationals is run. I think if people are paying $2,000 between food, travel, and lodging. They come out to this thing where there's 400 people in their weight class.
Mm-hmm.
These things are going on for literally 2 or 3 days at a time. Maybe it sounds like I'm bitching, but I feel like that at a national level, there shouldn't be that many people.
I agree with that. Like, besides that, it's kind of hard to watch from a spectator point. It's like, all right, if we're doing nationals, right? How I feel it should be run personally is like get the strongest man and woman from each state, or the top three from each state, and then have them compete. That's what I feel should be the case. Instead of here's 80 guys from California, and then here's like two guys from Arkansas. I'm like, we don't
Right.
need that many people, you know?
And I totally get it. It's like there's probably not going to be a state champ from specific states that
Yeah.
just don't have the popularity. That's fine. My idea was this, and I love that idea too. That was part of mine. I was discussing this just the other night with somebody, and I said, what if they just took top two from each weight class from each state? There's your nationals. Now
Yep.
you have at most 100 people in each weight class for each, you know,
Yeah.
both genders and everything. 100 people is manageable, but I wanted to take a step further. Take the top two from each state, and you have regionals. You have East, West, and then Central, and then the top two from each of those. That's nationals.
Yeah.
I mean, then by
'Cause-
then you're probably talking about what at the most, like what 25 people.
Exactly.
Like 25 people in a weight class. That's competitive as hell, but at the same time, you're not a pro.
Manageable. Yeah, that too. You're not a pro.
You're not a pro. You got to, that's to me, that is a level of eating shit to get where you need to be that still respects you as a competitor and makes you respect the sport. You know what I mean? I'm not saying they should, honestly, though, seeing the conditions that they went through at Worlds, I'm like, wow, I wouldn't do this. But,
Yeah.
you look at the Arnolds, and, I chatted with a couple of the big guys there. I was like, how's Arnold's compared to this? They're like, dude, totally different experience. We're sitting in a nice room. They're like, the hardest part is we sometimes get too cold in between events.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part, they said. Because you watch Arnold, you can watch that shit live. It's,
It's great.
it's beautiful. It's beautiful from a spectator. It's beautiful. And Arnold's respects the athletes. You can tell the way the stage is set up, the way the events are run, the way the events are. Every event seems like something they're doing because they love the sport and they love the athlete. I wouldn't be watching this if it wasn't for the athlete. The athlete wouldn't be there if it wasn't for me. And I think that kind of relationship, the respect needs to be both ways.
Yeah.
And when you've got an event where I understand they're not professional athletes yet, they're not considered pros in nationals yet, I get that. But shouldn't they still be shown some level of respect? And shouldn't
100%.
the people watching, shouldn't they be able to have a good time watching it? How the hell are you gonna have a good time watching 100 people go, at once?
Yeah, that was my problem with official Strongman games too, which is live streamed by the official Strongman Giants Live. I'm like, this was hard to watch 10 people in a lane throwing sandbags. I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah. I mean, and it's people point at CrossFit and they're like, look, CrossFit's doing it. I'm like, CrossFit is different for a number of reasons. Number one, it's not a
Nobody
real
knows what's
sport.
going on in CrossFit at all.
Yeah. Number one, it's not a real sport. Number two, it's a bunch of teams getting together and competing together to see who's the best at exercise, which is fine. And I get some people like to watch it, but let's be real. When people go to sporting events that aren't, say, the NBA, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You go to your local high school, and let's talk about a sport that's considered by everybody a real sport, right? Basketball. Just simple, something everybody gets, at least in America.
Yeah.
People at the local level are only there to see the buddy that they know that plays. They're only there to see their son. There's no fan club in California for some kid in middle school in Florida. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's not a thing. Starting out is the same way in Strongman. But once they get to professional level, shouldn't it be easy to be able to tell you who the 200-pound class champ is, the 175, the 231? But it's not. Most people don't even know who won the 200-pound class last year.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I only know what's his name? Peter Castelli, I think his name was. He won the Arnolds. And then I know Dane Wallace, who also won the Arnolds in 2019, I think, or 2018. And that's the best I know. It's actually kind of hard to find that information sometimes.
Yeah, that too. The record keeping is not really good here in America with all of our records and everything. I'm
I
like, I can't tell you who like is defined as America's strongest man because it's weird. You know, we got nationals. We
mhm.
have United States Strongman. We have Strongman Corp. We have Giants Live North America. I'm like, which one's the actual strongest man in America? You know that's hard.
Right.
Like,
And then the capitalist in me is totally fine with that because competition breeds betterment.
yeah,
But when
have
it
a set
feels
title.
right, but when there's a title, I mean that goes back to that. Have you ever heard of the story of Bill Kazmaier trying to sue for the title of
Yes.
World's Strongest Man? Right. For people who don't know, Bill Kazmaier got pissed off at this guy doing like a car commercial because the guy claimed to be the world's strongest man, and Bill said, "Screw you! I'm the world's strongest man. I literally have the title." And long story short, the judge ruled that it was too broad of a term to call yourself that, and then the dude
Yeah.
was totally allowed to call himself that. Well,
Yeah.
with that in mind, what the hell does that say
Anybody could
about
be.
Martine's leases?
That's true. Yeah, anybody on YouTube can be like, I'm the strongest man in the world. I'm like, who are you?
Right. And then like you said, you've got three different in America. You've got the three bigs. In Strongman Corp, USS, and then um, Giants Live Tour. And it's like, well, how do you get to any of these places? Does USS qualify you for Giants Live? Does Giants Live qualify you for USS? Which one takes you to Arnold's? Which one takes you to Worlds?
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure that one out. I think it's mostly, Strongman Corporation more than United States Strongman. I think there's no set anything. I'm like, we need a bit more standardization. Like, tell us how to get from A to B to C. That's
Right,
all we
right.
kind of want for the people
When I
who
say
want to
standard,
be world's strongest man.
right. When I say standardization, I mean just like put a drop of oil in the water
Yeah.
bit, because I don't want to turn into powerlifting or more specifically Olympic lifting, where we all have to use Alico barbells,
Yeah, I
we
don't
all
want
have to use
that.
Alico calibrated plates. But that's the way it'll move with too much standardization. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I think Bartos is leaning in that direction, where if every comp uses Bartos barbells, or not barbells, but you know what I mean, they're
Yeah.
farmers, they're yokes, they're stones, they're plate loadable dumbbells. That's going to turn it into Olympic lifting, where
Yeah.
every gym is then going to own only Bartos stuff. And that's not strongman. Strongman is, again, lifting up a heavy, awkward thing and looking cool.
Yeah. I also think the competition, at least for the pros, the competitions got a bit standard in like the 2010s. It was like we always have Atlas Stones, or we always do deadlift. I'm like, damn, you guys have so many cool events. Like at
Right.
least to Worlds, bring them back. Like bring back the power stairs from like 2012, or change
Yes.
it up. Screwed over
Yes.
for Titus Lalas, but I'm just like, bring it back.
Yeah,
But
yeah. No, I love the power stairs. That's one of the coolest events to watch. My God, the one clip I always show people when I'm like Mariusz Pudzianowski, and they're like, "Who?" And I'm like, "He's this insane Polish dude who was like looked like a bodybuilder, moved like a bullet, and was strong as hell." And I always show them that clip of him doing the power stairs against what was the big American
Phil Fister.
Phil Fister against Phil Fister, where Poods was behind. He looked up and saw Phil up there and just shot
Yeah,
past him. And it was like, who is this man? You know what I mean? But like power stairs, it's a fun event to watch for everybody because anything could happen at any moment.
exactly.
Now, I do have to say, I love the idea of ending with Atlas Stones. To me, that's paying homage to history.
Hmm.
But like you said, there's so many things. I mean, you can do a safe press. I don't think certain events like car flips should be brought back. I
Yeah,
understand
no,
why.
people got hurt on that. Oh my
Right. That's
gosh.
just a little too dangerous for my liking. Now I get some strongman like that's strongman, be a man. I'm like, that's cool, bro. But like you're flipping a car. On top
Yeah.
of the fact that that's a little too unstandardized, like how do you decide how far the car went? Do you decide by flips? Maybe
Yeah.
the car flipped a little differently for this guy because the weight was different. There's a lot of factors in there that can't be. put in. At the end of the day, strong is strong, but I feel like a car flip is just a little too unstandardized. Now, bring back the car yoke walk because that shit was
Oh
cool.
yeah. That was
Like,
super. That was super cool. Like that's visually impressive for nobody who knows anything about Strowman. Like, can
right.
you walk with a car on your shoulders? Like that looks cool.
Some YouTubers I watched, there's just like some gaming channels. They're talking about strongman, and I'm listening to this. I'm a bodybuilding fan too, and I'm listening to this, and they're talking about bodybuilding and strongman. They don't know
The difference.
half the story, but I'm listening to it as somebody who knows a lot, and he's describing the car walk. And it was cool because they put up like pictures of like Phil Fister doing the car walk. He's like, there's a dude who gets into a real car and he puts on suspenders and he's wearing the car as suspenders. And I was like, this is the shit we need to do to make this sport popular because that is cool. Because
Yeah,
somebody who doesn't know anything knows that's cool.
exactly. They don't need to bring back stupid events, even though I kind of want stupid events. But you go and look at the '90s ones. Some of those events were just ridiculous. Like Murder Ball, we had to push a ball into like the other opponent. That one was weird. I'm like,
Yes.
what was
Yes.
this? Bring back
And,
sumo wrestling. I'd watch that.
see, and I think that's where we disagree. I tend to be less of a fan of the head-to-head competition style, like the pole push or the sumo wrestling. I
Yeah.
wasn't a fan of that. Part of it is because when you're in strongman, especially at their level, you have to be familiar with so many different events.
Mhm.
And there is, I'm going to put it this way, there's like 10% risk factor increase when you do these head-to-head events, pole push and sumo wrestling, because it's like, how do you practice this with other
Yeah.
guys, number one. But never minding that, to me, head-to-head competition should be their own thing. I agree with MAS wrestling or Moz wrestling being its own thing. Arm wrestling is its own thing because it's such a specialized thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of technique that goes in it. It's not just, oh, I gotta, flick my arm. No, there's a lot of twist and
Right,
techniques and
strong
everything.
is strong, but like there's a lot. When I look at an event, and I'm nobody, I get that, but when I look at an event as just a logical person, as much as I can be, I try to think about every factor that could go into determining a winner of this particular event. When you have something like a tug of war, which is visually impressive, unless you're like Kaz and Capes and you just dig in for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, the big dick energy coming off of that sand must have been impressive, but I wouldn't have wanted to stand there and watch that because after the second tug, I'd have been like, all right, this shit's dumb. Can we do something else, please?
True.
But there's so many factors that go into that. Was his dirt loose? Was his dirt, packed tighter? There's factors that you have to think about, and it's like, as long as everybody's using the same log, it's fair, in my opinion. It's even. You had your chance. You weren't strong enough to do it. It doesn't matter if you tweaked your elbow doing it, whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about injuries. I'm talking about, did you use the same exact log that he did?
Yeah.
You had your chance. You couldn't do it. That's on you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Did you use the same brand of farmers? Fine. Okay. You know what I mean? That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. And when head-to-head stuff, I mean, you could make the argument strong is strong on something like sumo wrestling or MAS wrestling, Moz wrestling,
Yeah.
or even the pole push. Sure. But at the same time, I feel like those should be sort of their own thing.
I agree. I wouldn't want to see them back at Worlds. Maybe if they did tiebreaker events, because I don't like the
Yes.
whole, oh, we determine places by count back, which I'm like, I'm here. I want to see something happen for a tiebreaker. I think head to head would be good for tiebreakers because I don't agree that they should be back at Worlds because going head to head, if you're in the wrong lineup, you probably got screwed out of placing in the. So I don't agree that it should be back at Worlds. Smaller competitions like SCL, Strongman Champions League, I watch a lot of those. They have like pole push and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Smaller leagues, it's fine, but like at the world stage, unless it's for tiebreakers, it shouldn't be back. Yeah, I don't agree with that. Events I went back is like in the '90s, they used to throw, they still do the keg toss, but like throw the bricks over the wall for height, things like
Yes.
that. I want that stuff to be back. Or
That's one of
the
my.
people walk.
Yes, that's when you were just talking because the pole push reminds me of the '90s with Manfred Herbal, where they were doing the brick over they were throwing the cinder block over.
Yeah.
What I love about that is it's visually stimulating. And anybody can understand that because anybody can go grab a cinder block, throw it as high as you can. How high do you get? You know what I mean? Can
Yep.
you throw a cinder block onto your roof? That's how strong
Exactly.
these guys are. You know what I mean? And that's the kind of stuff I like, and that's the kind of stuff I totally agree should be in Worlds, where it's you've got visually appealing things that easily demonstrate how fucking strong these guys are.
Yeah. Because when we were down in Florida, because that's where we met at Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
There were just people who were on the beach, and it's like, why are these people just crowding around these guys? And they like, it doesn't look interesting to a spectator who is walking on the beach, walking by, like, okay, so there's a guy just, just deadlifting. Okay, I do that at the gym. I
Right.
mean, yes, that's like, as Eddie says, that's alpha male strength. He says that all the time, but it's not as impressive in strongman. I get its place, but do something like I like when they did the silver dollar deadlift. That looks visually impressive. Like
So,
bring back those visual, events.
right. Yeah, I got a bone to pick with that particular lift. Tom McGee had the world record for the most weight a human being had picked up off the ground in a deadlift format for
Yeah.
literally 30 years. And he did it with cheese. Now, granted, the bar was super bendy and the thing was, it's close. But he did it in a comp where other people had the opportunity to beat him. This was after days of competition. And then what happens? Eddie Hall just does the same lift outside of a competition
With the books, right?
with books. And I was kind of like, fuck you, that doesn't count. No, that's unless it's in a comp, I don't want it to count. Now, when I say that, I mean if you go to the World Log Lift Championships, that counts. There's other
Yeah.
people there. There's opportunity for other people to push you and break the record. Take it from you, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're just in your house with Colin Bryce deadlifting. Who the fuck is Colin Bryce? I don't trust him. You know what I
I
mean?
think he got a Guinness record for that. I think. Don't quote me on that. I think they awarded him like, well, here he is. We officiated this. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, and I say that about the Space Cowboy. I met him. He was a nice guy, but like, who the fuck are you? I don't trust you to know that weighs 1,200 pounds. Like,
Yeah.
I want Brian Shaw standing there and going, "That shit's heavy, bro." I want competition. I don't get. By that logic, Iron BB is log lift champion because he's done
Right.
518 pounds in his gym, and I don't even know where he's from.
Burkina Faso, which is like in like Central Africa, I think. Don't quote me on that, but it's in Africa.
I thought he was okay. I was pretty convinced he was like an African competitor, but I had no idea where.
Yeah.
But yeah, by that logic, he's the world record holder on log because he's done 517 in training. Graham Hicksey's done it. You know what I mean? He's 520 in training.
Yeah.
That's the same logic we're using here when we just allow somebody to just go to a store and break a world record like that.
Yeah, that was a bit weird, but Eddie will beg to differ.
That's fine, and Eddie was one of the few guys there when we were at Worlds that he looked super busy. And I ain't gonna call him out and call him an asshole or nothing. I've heard some people call him an asshole and say he was being a prick. The man's busy. He's very, he's got shit to do. I get that. He's a popular commodity there. But I actually didn't get the chance to stop him and pose for a picture. Part of it was he was a little bit off-putting sometimes. Like I saw somebody else like, "Hey Ed, can I get a pic?" And he was like, "Oh, make it fast." And I was like, "Oh shit, okay."
Yeah.
He's in a hurry. All right.
Like it's one thing for the competitors because there were some I wanted pictures with, and it's like, well, they're about to go up and compete, so I didn't want to bother them. But it's just like I get it, It's like, well, they're here for business, that this is their job. So it's like, I don't want to be like, oh, can I get a picture if you're like in the zone, like getting ready to like lift something heavy,
Right.
but like
It
afterwards, on the beach and stuff. That's cool.
Right. Well, one of the picks I got with Brian was right after he got qualified for the finals.
Mhm.
And I stood there. Everybody else left once it was over. Once he was just like, yeah, he did it. He confirmed it. A bunch of people are leaving. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? I'm running up to the fence finally. I'm like, Brian, I love you. And I'm wearing his American deadlift T-shirt he had.
Yeah.
I was wearing that when I got that pick. And then such a bittersweet moment. Like, I'm a huge Brian Shaw fan. I want him to get 5 because I feel like Morios doesn't get the kind of credit that I honestly believe he deserves for being a 5-time champ.
Mm-hmm.
I think a big part of that, people say it's because people were doing the, what do you call it, IFSA at the time.
Yeah.
I think that's part of it, but I actually think a bigger part of it is that Mario's kind of left the sport and really left the sport.
Yeah.
he did nothing to sort of talk about his lineage in the sport at all. He just disappeared and went off to MMA. And I mean, now I think he's hosting some
Oh
strongman
yeah,
comps.
he does a lot in Poland, so like he's
Right.
big in his home country, but he doesn't come back here.
Right. He doesn't tour. Like honestly, like look, Bill Kazmaier is probably, if not the strongest man who's ever lived, he's definitely top five competition.
Yep.
In his prime, I mean, the freak was so strong they told him not to come back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Multiple world records in powerlifting, and it's real powerlifting too, not like with all the suits and shit they do now. You know, don't at me, bro. Um, but you know, super strong guy. But when we really look at it, he won 3 times. You know, people have done more impressive things later on, but he's still talked about as a legend, and a big part of that is because he stays active in the sport.
Yes.
And I think the same thing could be said of, help me out here, Icelandic. Magnuson.
Magnus. Yeah,
Right.
Magnus for Magnuson.
I think the same thing can be said of him. He stays active in the sport, so people remember his name, people respect the lineage.
Mm-hmm.
I think you look at somebody like, say, Yako Ahala, one of the lightest guys to win.
Yep.
Nobody talks about him.
Yeah, he just went back to his home country. I think it also might be a language thing.
I think
personally,
a big part of it is a language
like
thing.
when Marius first started, he could not understand English. I remember his first worlds, he couldn't understand that he didn't get a rep. He thought he had won what it was, and he didn't understand it was like no rep, and he couldn't understand English.
Right.
So, and it got better over time, but you know, if you're not practicing it and you're in your home country and you're doing MMA where you just got to beat the shit out of people, you don't really need to speak English necessarily. So I think that's why he just like, whatever, I'm done with this. I'm gonna go back to my home country.
I think
Same
that's
with Ahola too. It's like, well, what Finnish is not a language a lot of people speak. So
right. Well, and I think when you look at, say, somebody like Z, I think now, granted, he's got, you know, what, 9 Arnolds behind him too.
8, yeah.
8 Arnolds behind him. I'm not going to say he's going to follow in the same path as Pujanowski, but I think there is that bit of a risk when you're sort of a kind of lesser in quotes, European country like Lithuania, where it's like the only thing I know about Lithuania is that Zydrunas Savickas is from there.
Yeah.
Like that's literally the only. I don't know what they do there. I don't even know where it is on a map. Like, I assume it's in Europe.
Yeah.
You know? But like, I think Z could have very easily and could still go down that same path where in a few years we're not really talking about him.
Well, he's trying to make a comeback for 2020, and I hope he does. I'm a Brian fan too, but I want Z to have that 5 more. You know, he's saying he wants his 5. He's coming back in 2020. Not sure if I don't think he's doing Arnold's because he didn't qualify, but also I think it's a social media thing too. If you look at Poods' followers versus Z, Z has almost 500,000 followers.
Right.
And he's always posting like, look at all this land I own. Z is just living his best life, having fun, and I think, you know, that's the best way to go out. But he also does a lot of tours too. He does seminars, so that's what Poots never does.
Right, and I think he's going the right path to not be the forgotten champ.
Yeah.
And I mean, hell, if he comes back in 2020, that'd be awesome. But yeah, with Brian, it was that bittersweet moment when Brian, you know, when it was just the math worked out, and I was like, there's literally no way Brian can win this year.
Unless the top other 4 guys get struck by lightning.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Which, I mean, in Florida could happen, to be fair.
Yeah.
But you know, when he lost, I had this bittersweet moment because I was like, well, shit, you know, Brian can't do this, you know, and witnessing that moment live of him going over to Kerry after he finished the Stones and just seeing a man leaning on his wife, you know what I mean, just broken. Mm-hmm. I was like, that's some real shit right there. Somebody get a picture of that, and I'm glad a lot of people got pictures of it because it was like, that's real shit right there.
Yeah.
And I had this bittersweet moment because it was like, fuck, Brian lost. And I was like, well, because he got 5th, there probably won't be a crowd around him.
That's true.
And I was like, I feel like a shitbag for thinking it, but I was right. Yeah. I mean, I ran over to him, and there's only like 4 people around him, and I was like, that's fucked up of all these people, man. Like, people only care about the champ, and that's bullshit. Like, Brian Shaw is one of the strongest men who's ever walked this planet.
Yep.
He also happens to be, in my opinion, the sweetest guy out there. And this is how you guys treat him? Like, there should be a crowd around this man all
Yeah.
times.
He did say something one time in his videos. He mentioned you're only as good as your last lift. And unfortunately a lot of people think that way. It's like, well, he came in fifth. And you see all the trolls online like Brian Shaw's done, he's old news, who cares? I'm
Yeah,
like, he's still one of the strongest people to walk this earth,
like
regardless of how you feel about it.
I when people said that, I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what are you what kind of weed are you smoking that would possibly lead you to that conclusion? Like, I get you don't like him because you want your guy to win, and there is a way to like 2 different people and want one to win
Exactly.
more without hating the other one. I have nothing against Thor. I would never call myself a Thor fan.
Hmm.
I still want to see him do well.
Exactly.
Like, there's really no pro strongman that I just don't like. You know what I mean? And it's like, you guys, you can like Eddie and Brian at the same time. You can like Thor and Brian at the same time, and want one to win more than the other. Like, it's
Yeah.
not it's not a light switch, okay?
Exactly. It's not like basketball where it's like, oh, I like this team, so I have to hate this team.
Right.
Everybody, can win.
Right. It's yeah, it's you won't get a trophy, but everybody wins, right?
Yeah, you're still the strongest people who, of the 30 strongest men in the world. Who can
Right.
say that?
Brian tore his hamstring at the Arnold's and still didn't come last place.
Yeah.
Like, come on, people. You know? But that's one of the things I respect the most about Brian too, is like, he went through that, and it was honestly, the loading race was like, that was his worst event this year.
I
Bar none.
couldn't see it because I got there at 6 and I still couldn't see the loading race. I was like,
It was the worst event for him. I saw footage some people had gotten from some of my friends, and he looked slow,
mm,
and he looked awkward. And he said it himself in the later videos, like, I've spent years becoming the biggest and strongest, and now they've lightened the weights, but I'm still just as slow, even though the weights are lighter.
yeah,
And it's like, and part of me likes that in Worlds, because you've got Arnold's and Worlds. Right now are the 2 most respected world championships, right?
yep,
And with WUS very close to overtaking Worlds, in my opinion.
yeah,
Um, because that they love the strongmen.
oh
You know what I
yeah,
mean? You can tell the love.
and they have the money.
They got all the money. One of the Masters competitors I'm friends with here in Florida was telling me about. He didn't mention names, but he said a pro strongman that he knew got flown over there to like Dubai or somewhere in India,
Yeah,
where they get that oil sheik money, and flew him over there just for a private audience, just to do strongman shit
jeez.
for him. Paid him $1,000 a day, flew him there, paid for everything.
That's the dream I think every strongman wants.
I mean, first of all, that's fuck you money that
Yep.
they've got over there. Like, where it's just like, I think I'll just fly a strongman over today to just do an exhibition for me and my friends.
Because
Like,
why not?
yeah, because it's Tuesday and I'm bored, like that's the kind of money that people dream of. But then it's like, to be that strongman that happens to, that's awesome too.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Brian said it in his own video. I just need to get faster. And then this is why I love Brian so much, and why I've always loved Brian. He's what piqued my interest into strongman. I saw in 2008, when I was talking about, like, I'd only seen a couple videos.
Mm-hmm.
I was house sitting for this lady. I didn't have cable growing up, but she did. And I just had like ESPN on or whatever back when they played, or CBS Sports, one of the two.
Yeah.
And they were playing 2008's 2009 Strongman. And I saw
Babyface
Brian.
Brian
I saw
without the beard.
babyface Brian, and I went, holy shit, look at this fucking man. this beast amongst men. And I thought it was the coolest thing. And then I saw him doing all the events, and I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. And I never got into it again until 2012. And then I saw Brian, and then, dove deep on a lot of the history and stuff. Not nearly as much as you. My hat is off to thee.
I have
Because
no life.
you stay on top of everything, though. I mean, when you started doing the weekly
Review and stuff.
yeah, I mean, like, I have a few strongman videos that I follow. It's like Brian, Never Sate, Alan. Granted, those are just like local guys, but I like their information and stuff. And you, and that's like it.
Oh, thank you.
Well, why wouldn't I? You give such good information, and it's like it's shit that I had no idea about half the time. And what I love the most about it, there's no opinions.
Yeah.
It's just
Well,
news.
it's supposed to be exactly. It's supposed to be news. If I'm going to give my opinion, I'll do another video. But I want to get the news out there because you're not going to know everything about every guy. And like you said, some weird Baltic nation, like who's that? But he's a strong motherfucker. And if I see it, I'm gonna tell people about it.
Right, and that's what I love too. You have like the different sections of the news too, where it's like this people are getting married, and I'm like, oh my God, who talks about this? Nobody talks about that kind of shit. You know what I mean? But I love that because it's like it's bringing personality to the sport too, which I believe is the reason why certain strongmen are so popular. Like Eddie Hall, let's actually look at his record. Objectively looking at his record, he's not that impressive.
Eddie gasses out and gets injured in a lot of his competitions if you go back and watch. Oh, I'm injured on the first event. Cardio's not my thing. I'm like, well, that's not fun to watch.
Well, I'll be absolutely honest. Like, Arnold's one of the years, I forget which year it was 2 years before he did the deadlift, the world record deadlift.
Yeah.
He was doing the log, and he had won the event, but then he went for more, and he ended up hurting himself because, what a surprise. And he was doing an interview afterward, not even an interview, he was just walking off, and he said, I don't give a fuck, all I cared about was the log anyway. And he walked away. And I was like, excuse me? Like, if you only care about one event, just go to the World Championships and do it there. Don't feed me this bullshit like you're a strongman competitor, but you only care about one event? Like, that's not strongman, bro.
Yeah. I want to see Eddie in powerlifting. I don't know because of his bicep or whatever, but like Eddie in powerlifting would be amazing because cardio was never his thing. He made that known. He was it's weird to consider 6'3" short, but in strongman, that's a short. He's a stocky short man,
right?
Who's not good at the moving events, which kills him.
Right, and I've. It's like, look, all respect to the deadlift record that he beat, as long as the qualifiers are put in strongman style with a suit.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I respect him 100% for that lift because he was at the World Deadlift Championships. There were other people that could have beaten him there, but didn't.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I can't wait to see Thor break the record with just straps because I believe he could. The man's just.
I think Jerry could. I'm going to be the outlier. I think Jerry could do it. It's just he keeps getting injured with his hamstring.
I was just going to say, if fucking Jerry could just keep his hamstring stuck to his fucking bone, he would probably be able to do it. You know what was cool? When I was in Texas at an event there, a strongman, I was at the Bill Kazmaier Classic, actually. My friend Nate was competing, and I was with him. I met another guy there who was a 231 competitor, and if you watch the footage from last year's Arnold's, you'll see Jerry in the back hanging out with like this. He kind of looks Hawaiian, but he's like a bald Hawaiian-looking dude.
Yeah.
And I know that guy. I know him personally. I can't remember his damn name. I think it's like James or something. But I was texting him when I saw him on TV. I was like, "Oh, dude, I see you. Like, I see you on YouTube or whatever." I was watching it on. And I was like, how's Jerry doing? And he's like, oh, he's doing good so far, blah, blah, blah. And then right when the injury happened, I was like, oh, shit, what happened? And, I had like the insider scoop. So if we ever need the insider scoop, I got us.
Yes, nice.
Yeah.
Thor might pull 501 at WUS. I don't know if there's a prize for that, though. I feel like he'd go for it if there's prize. Not like Thor needs more money, but I feel like he'll do it at like Arnold's or something like that,
But he absolutely said that, and I know a lot of the old school strongmen called him out on that when somebody asked him a comment. They said, are you ever going to pull the 500 kilo or break the deadlift record? Excuse me. And his first response was, if somebody pays me.
Yeah.
And
I don't
he
know
had a
why he
lot of,
got shit, because Eddie said the same thing. Eddie put a bet on himself, like, I'm going to do this for money. So I don't know why Thor's getting shit for saying, I'm going to do this for money. Eddie did the exact same thing.
and I think to answer that specific question, personality. That's why. Eddie's loud, he's brash, and he's funny. He's charming as fuck. I mean,
That is true.
I don't necessarily like him. I don't dislike him. I don't know him well enough to have a great opinion of him. You know what I mean? But from what I've seen and from what I've experienced in real life of him, I would think he's probably not somebody I want to go get beers with. But the camera loves him. He's
Yeah.
charismatic. He knows what to say at any given moment. I mean, he's good. And I think that's a big part of his personality. And in Britain, nobody loves strongman like Britain.
Yeah.
Like, I wish America showed that kind of love to strongman, but it's just not in the cards. I think we just have too many sports, and I think a lot of it's. I think strongman's always going to kind of be like soccer here, where
Yeah. But people care about soccer during FIFA. People don't care about World's Strongest Man when World's Strongest Man's on, because it's on some god awful channel that nobody watches.
you know, and after experiencing Worlds live, they can't live stream that shit.
I mean, Arnold's does it, and there's downtime between Arnold's, though. So, maybe if they
But
got more staff to work with them.
it's 40 minutes of downtime at Arnold's.
Yeah.
It was 4 hours of downtime at Worlds.
Yeah, that is true.
And then it wasn't even like, so at Arnold's, like you said, there's downtime there, but it's only downtime in between events. Every guy just goes.
Yeah.
Worlds, we were standing there for 30 minutes in between competitors sometimes. What?
Yeah,
You know?
that sucked. That really did suck. It was an experience, and like I said in my first podcast with Julian, I'm like, if you have the chance to go to Worlds, honestly, I would say don't, unless they fix their shit. If they got arena style seating, and it's weird because at their Giants live shows, or even in like these athletes' home countries, they'll set up tables where they do autograph signings and meet and greets with people. We didn't have that here. We just happened to catch people at the bar hanging out or
Right.
going in between, but you're like, feel weird, like, I don't want to bother you, or like just people on the beach. I met Magnus on the third day in between, the downtime between like the King of Kegs and like the Atlas Stones. He was just chilling on the beach with his daughter and his wife. And I was like,
I ran
can I get a
into
picture?
Magnus with Colin Bryce. I have a picture of me in the middle of Colin Bryce and Magnus. They were just up at the bar getting drinks, hanging out.
Yeah.
And I put it this way. I was talking to a guy there who I knew. He works for SBD, actually. And he was helping with the event. And I met him in Texas as well. And I was happy he remembered me, actually. Because we met in a bar afterward. And we chatted for a while. But I was chatting with him and I was like, look, man, what the fuck? I was like, you're part of the event staff. What the hell? And he basically said, well, you're getting a free show. And I said, but are we though? I said, people paid money to come here. They're paying for boarding and lodging. On top of that, you want us to jump and do tricks whenever you guys say jump.
Yep.
That's not free anymore. You're getting something out of it. You're getting a crowd that looks cool. I'm like, it wouldn't be that hard for me to mentally fuck this crowd and make all of us just be like, no, we're not doing it. Do the next event. Day one, we did do that. And I'm proud to say I'm the guy who made that happen, because after it rained, the look on Oberst's face was the look on all of our faces.
Yep, just fucking annoyance,
Yeah, well, and I said it at the time, and I think I still stand by it. With such a catastrophe happening the first day in Florida, they're never coming back.
Yeah.
Why would they? And that sucks for me. Like, I live here, so it was, it was hype as fuck for me. It was only a 2-hour-ish drive.
Yeah.
But I ain't never done anything here.
No, I thought they were going to do it in California since they're sponsors in California. I'm like, how would you not do it in California? But they did it because IMG Academy's there, and that's like the company that owns the filming rights, I guess. But I'm like, What the fuck? Like I said, I've never heard of Bradenton before. I mean, it was a beautiful place to go. Their beaches are super nice and stuff, but,
I never heard of Bradenton, and I'm from Florida, and I've been to Tampa, I've been to Clearwater, and I never heard of Bradenton.
Yeah, I'm just like,
I have
this is a
family
place.
in Petersburg.
Yeah, this is a place where old
Which
people retire. That's it.
yes, yes. You know, it's I don't know how they come up with that shit. You know, and I hesitate to blame any specific person because it was kind of like when we were at the comp and there was a lady. She had a headset on and she kept moving shit around at the final. She kept moving shit around.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
And you were standing right near me when I said it. I was like, "Don't bitch at that lady because there's some asshole in a suit in the trailer right over
Yep.
there who's telling her to do it. We don't know his name. We never heard of him. We never will."
Yeah. Everybody has a bigger boss somewhere.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
I guarantee you that's exactly what was happening to that lady. I was like, I'm not about to throw my flack at her. That's like getting pissed off at the guy serving you the burger at McDonald's because it comes with mayonnaise now. Like, that's not his
Exactly.
fault. Corporate decided to do that. He's making the sandwich how they told him to make it, you know?
Yeah.
That's all
Yeah.
there is to it.
I will say this, you gave me the best interview that I did. The only reason why it's not up on YouTube is because IMG blocked the video worldwide, which is
Cool.
absolute ass. Yeah, yeah. So I don't remember who it was, another YouTuber who puts up Strongman videos. He was there and he took videos of the last Atlas Stone between Martins and Mateusz and the
Okay.
celebration.
Yeah.
And it got copyright claimed. It had like almost 1 million views on it or whatever the number was. And that got copyright claimed by IMG as well. So they were going after videos. That's why, like, after day two, I stopped uploading videos because they started copyright claiming stuff. And I got mad. I'm like, but I wasn't showing footage of the event. I was, because I had a bunch of interviews of people who had flown in or whatever, and they got, blocked. So that's the only reason why it's not up. Because you gave me a really good interview. I still have it. I just have to find a way to upload it, you
Oh,
know?
thank you. Thank you.
IMG, in their great glory, will probably wait till after Worlds gets aired on CBS and be like, yeah, we'll unblock it, so I don't get the clicks.
That's one of my favorite phrases to describe stupid shit like that because I like I said grew up a mechanic and my favorite phrase in mechanics is the engineers in all their wisdom.
Yeah.
So IMG in all their wisdom have blocked all of these videos
Yep. Which
as
would
if
get
that's
them
going to
promotion.
force as if that's going to force the average layperson to be like, "Oh, well, I can't watch it on YouTube. I guess I'll just go
Yeah.
buy it on CBS." Like, no, they're
Uh,
not going to do that.
no. I've been pirating it for people in Poland. Like, I'll record them on my screen. I'm like, here, watch them. Y'all ain't gonna
Nine
see
times
this. Go watch this.
this is the thing I hate about a lot of media, and video games is a really good example of this, and I actually have seen the data on it. The most pirating country in the world for video games is Russia.
Yep.
Number one, without a doubt. Like, they are huge in
They don't
pirating.
give a fuck about anything. Their laws are so different, you can't even catch them half the time.
Right. But here's the funniest thing. I forget what video game it was, but they told Steam, they said, hey, release it in Russia. We're doing localization in Russia. They had more sales in Russia than all the other worldwide sales combined. So it's almost like if you give people a chance to pay for something, they'll pay for it.
Yeah,
But if you don't, what do you expect them to do? It's like
exactly.
if people still remember what Blockbuster was,
Mm.
if they went to Blockbuster and said, hey, I want to buy, this movie, whatever movie, Gone with the Wind. I want to buy Gone with the Wind, right?
Yeah.
And the guy behind the counter says, sure. And I was like, cool, I need the US version. And they said, we don't have it. And I said, well, but I have money though. And they're like, yes, we'll take your money. And I'm like, yeah, but I need the US version of Gone with the Wind. And they're like, I don't have it. And then I go out to the alley in the back, and there's a guy with a copy of Gone with the Wind. And I say, hey, I'll buy that off you. He goes, you don't need to buy it. Just take it. The fuck do you think I'm going to do? You think I'm going to go back to Blockbuster?
Exactly.
I'm never going back to Blockbuster again. I'm just going to keep going to Jerry in a back alley and get my free copies.
Exactly. Well, Worlds is just not up with the time. It was a stupid, wacky variety show in the 70s, but I'm just like, it's 2019. People stream. I was getting people from all over the world watching my garbage ass live stream on my phone because they're like, well, this doesn't even get shown in my country. I wait till it shows up on YouTube. So it's
Right.
just like, y'all have an audience, you just refuse to give it to people, which I don't understand. Because IMG is one of the largest media conglomerates in like the world. And it's
Right.
not just like they do like I didn't even realize this until I went on their website to do research for a video. They do like New York Fashion Week. They do bull riding. They do fucking esports, which everybody likes to piss on. Like, oh, these kids play video games for $3 million. They do fucking esports, and that is more known than strongman, which is an athletic endeavor.
Right.
So what the fuck are they doing with this property? They just don't care about strongman.
It certainly feels that way, and I in my mind, I'm 80-20. I'm like 80% of me says they don't fucking care, but then there's that 20% of me who says never attribute malice where you can attribute stupidity.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm more willing to believe that the guys running IMG are just idiots or ignorant of the product they have,
Yeah.
and they don't realize it. And I think with the prevalence of social media, eventually it'll get to the point where people are screaming and yelling loud enough that they just go, "Oh shit." What I'm really hoping for, I'm hoping somebody like Rogue, and I'm not a big Rogue fanboy or nothing. I'm really not. Look, all my equipment is made by my one of my training partners who runs the gym I train at. You know what I mean? So I'm not a Rogue fanboy by any means. They make good stuff. A little overpriced, but it's good. Rogue is involved with CrossFit and with the Arnold Classic, and both of those are beautiful events.
Yes, they are. The highlight reels are amazing.
You know what I mean? Like, Rogue is on top of that shit. They provide all the cameras. They even showed you how they made that fucking Conan's walk wheel.
Right?
What do they call that thing? Which, by the way, holy shit, that was cool.
Yeah.
And then I'm sitting here like, man, Rogue, why don't you just buy worlds from them?
Right? They have the money. They're shooting in fucking 4K, 8K sometimes. I'm like, my computer can't even
Yes.
play 8K. So I'm like, you guys have the money. Those
Right.
cameras aren't cheap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And they were
multiples.
down there, because all their equipment for World's Strongest Man was done by Rogue. And they were
Right.
taking pictures, but they didn't have highlight videos on their YouTube page, which was kind of interesting because their
It's
cameramen were there taking videos. So I'm like, are y'all waiting for CBS to show this shit and then you post your videos or what? Because I'm sure your footage will look better as well.
and you want to talk about a fanboy moment. You're talking about how they made people wait and shit, and it was like that's where I really fell in love with Thor when he won in 2019, right? He won
2018, yeah.
2018. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're in 2019. 2018, he wins. Immediately posts it like I'm the fucking champ. Deal with it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, thank you, because the year before that,
We're going to get cheeky and pretend it didn't happen.
we're sitting here like, look, the people who want to know already. The people
Exactly.
who don't know don't give a shit because they don't know. On top of the fact that you mean to tell me you're fucking world's strongest man, you're not allowed to announce that shit until June of the next year, or I'm sorry, December, because the
Yeah.
British people, well, we need to watch Wales because it's Christmas tradition. Fuck your tradition. That's
Exactly.
stupid.
They get
There's
a
no
week of
reason they can't do this.
strongman.
There's no reason they can't do this shit live and do it at Christmas. There's literally no reason they can't do both.
Seriously.
No
Like
reason whatsoever.
ours is coming out now. It's coming out. I don't know if you're watching on CBS because who fucking has it?
I
But
don't
it's
have that.
it's it's so ass. Like I have to go to my mom's place because I don't have cable. I'm like, hey mom, you're
Yeah,
not home on Thursday. Can I watch this? And I do. I'm
right.
like, it's so shitty. Like it's chopped up into 30-minute pieces. The announcers are fucking terrible.
Terrible.
Like one time, I don't remember what they said. It's like they said something. It was like this guy has gumption. I don't know what that means, Chris, but I like this kid's attitude. I'm like, fucking kill me. It's so cringy.
It's
I can be
it's
a better announcer. Holy shit.
and hey, I don't mean to like call anybody out or nothing, but like there were misloads and all that kind of shit. This is the world championships of this sport,
Yeah.
and you guys can't even get weights right. Like the biggest one for me was the stone. I had a buddy of mine. I didn't go to the fucking stone over bar event because it's a stupid event. They should get rid of it.
100%. Screwed Novikov.
Well, it's
So bad.
screwed. What's his name too? Rob
Yeah, screwed Kearney too.
Kearney. Like Kearney, Kearney wasn't even on my radar this year. I'll be brutally honest. And then when I was standing there and he was the first guy to finish that medley with the yokes,
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit, Kearney came to play. You know what I mean? Like you're on my radar now, bro. You know what I mean? And for him to not get into finals when he totally should have at a stupid event, but the interesting thing about that event is what did they keep saying the stone weighed?
Mm. Yeah, I don't know.
When we were at the comp, they said the stone weighed 420 pounds.
Yeah.
On TV and on their website or wherever else they announced it, they said it weighed 400 pounds.
I
If
didn't
you were
realize that.
if you were actually there at the event, you could see in the stone chiseled 385.
Oh, well, that's embarrassing.
Yes. My
Uh,
buddy Joe took not Joe. Who did it? It wasn't Joe. It was one of my other friends. He actually took a picture of the stone because he's like, nobody's going to believe me. Took a picture of it. It said 385 chiseled on the side. And I said, well, it's probably not kilos. So, you know,
Oof. Well, I mean, there was
so
times. Remember, were at the Atlas Stones on the final. Remember, they didn't put the starting tape down for like one of the sides. That killed me. They was like, wait, and there was like no tape there. So
it's a big mess. That's for another podcast. We've been
yeah.
going for what, an hour 45 ish.
Holy crap! Yeah. We've been going for a good while. Yeah.
I gotta
But
go get my Sunday biddles, buy my food for the week, and all that good stuff. My girl's
yeah.
walking around. She looks like she's ready.
Right. Well, yeah, we got to cut this short, but if you want to come back, just let me know.
Oh, 100%. I got to get some
Yeah.
footage for my channel too, you know?
Exactly. And if you want to promote that, you can go tell us right now what your YouTube channel is and your Instagram.
Sure. My YouTube channel link should be Will
Well,
Development Official.
where it'll be on the banner somewhere.
Yeah, I snagged that URL, Will Development Official, before I'm anybody, so, nobody can take it now. And then my Instagram is just at Will Development. I post 4 or 5 times a week, usually just my training. But, if I have a stone delivery, I'll post on that too. And then weekly updates every week. I do a Friday night, I do an update on how the week went with training and all that other stuff. I've never missed a week, but I've been late twice in 4 years, I think. So I'm always doing that. And then I post training footage on the channel too. And then, like I discussed, probably around Christmas time, when it's finally not raining every day here, I'll actually shoot those stone videos. So I got a lot of footage on a lot of things, but check out my channel if you're so inclined.
Yes. Links will be on the banner, whatever side that is, I'm not sure. And links will be in the description below. And once again, thank you, Will, for being a guest on my podcast. And I hope to have you back soon.
Yes, thank you for having me. I had a great time.
Yes, talked about a lot of stuff. So I'm going to sign off now. And you guys can follow me here on the channel at Nerd of Strength. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Also, you can follow me on Instagram at EastWolfStyle for not just strongman stuff, but my awesome collection of toys, if that's your thing. So thank you guys for watching and have a great day.